You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. We are very excited to speak with photographer Harvey Stein in a two-part episode on today's show. But before we get down to business, a special thanks to Logitech Creators for sponsoring this episode of the B&H Photography Podcast. Check out their Blue Yeti line of USB microphones with broadcast quality sound and enhanced Blue Voice vocal effects that make them ideal for podcasting and YouTube productions. They're also easy to use for game streaming, remote communication programs like Skype and Zoom, and other applications. A link to these microphones will be in our show notes. Now, on to the show. Harvey Stein is best known for his close-up, or as I sometimes call it, in-your-face street photography, not to mention sensitive portraiture of people from around the world. He uses his camera to learn more about life, living, and the self, mostly by photographing others. A New York-based photographer, educator, lecturer, curator, author, and a prolific workshop leader, Stein focuses solely on long-term personal projects. He's been publishing books for more than 40 years. His 10th and latest book, Coney Island People, 50 Years, is being released this summer by Schiffer Publishing. We're delighted to have Harvey Stein join us on the show today. Let's start with the discussion John Harris and I had with Harvey at the 2022 Optic Outdoor Photo Video Travel Imaging Conference in June, where he was speaking about his newest book, Coney Island People, 50 Years. After a break, the podcast's new creative producer, Jill Waterman, and I plan on picking Harvey's brain for insights about publishing one's photographs, working with publishers, pitfalls to avoid, and other useful bits of advice about turning photo projects into books. But before we launch into part two, let's begin with part one. The volume of work that you've done between books and publication and magazines is just magnificent. And here you are at a travel conference, and you're a street photographer. So how did you weasel your way into this one?
Well, I'm not a travel photographer, but I'm a photographer who travels. So there's a little difference there. And I am a street photographer. I'm a portrait photographer. I don't like to have narrow boundaries put around myself.
Your body of work doesn't allow it to be tied together.
Yeah. Well, I'll do landscape. If I'm in the landscape, I'll photograph wherever I am, but that's not my forte or my specialty. I'm really interested in people, but I love traveling, and I travel in cities instead of the country or into wildlife or areas that are wooded or landscaped. I'm in cities, and I'm looking for animals, the human animal, maybe, you know. And I guess I want a response from my subject, and people give me the responses. Trees don't do that. Buildings don't do that. Landscape doesn't do that. So.
Interesting. I never thought of it in those terms.
I have a lot. I'm an educator. I have a lot to impart on how to work with the camera, not technically, but visually, and the vision aspect of it, and that's what I like to convey, and I think I did that in my presentation.
See, the truth of the matter is, being a street photographer, when you're traveling, and if you're photographing in any city, you are a street photographer because you're photographing in the street. You really can't separate the two in many ways, unless you're going out to travel to do landscapes.
Right.
But for the most part, we are all street photographers.
We are, yeah, and we don't have to street photography connotes photographing people, but I don't think we need to just photograph people to be called street photographers. I mean, we could photograph on a beach, we could photograph on a rooftop, we can photograph in a park and still be a street photographer. And but I want to populate my images with people. There's no question. I'm drawn to people. I want to learn about them. I learn from them. I learn about them. And it just satisfies my soul, rather than waiting all night for an animal to show up or the sun to set.
And how do you change your outlook when you're in a different city or when you're in a different location? I mean, do you have a different way of photograph as opposed to your hometown?
That's a good question. If I go to a foreign country and I don't know the language, I feel more shy because I feel less optimistic about being open, and because I can't speak the language. So I might do more candid street photography in a foreign city than I would in New York or in America or in England where I can speak the language. My approach to street photography is going up to people and interacting with them. I try not to do candid street photography, which 90% of the people do. 90% of the photographers or whatever photograph candidly. I feel that's a bit sneaky. I want to interact with the person and pose them a little bit. I mean, I try to photograph them where they are and have them not pose. But I want them to know that they're being photographed and have the dignity to refuse me if they don't feel comfortable with it. So when you're shooting candidly, it seems to me it's a sneaking process. You're not giving them a chance to say yes or no or to be involved with the photograph.
But in street photography, there's that intermediate space.
And
where
there is intermediate.
You can't speak because you're going to lose the photo, or it's just too crowded. So you can do that by, literally showing your camera, or giving that kind of
nodding, or I move the camera.
Making an acknowledgement.
Yeah.
A mutual acknowledgement that, okay, we're in agreement that this is happening right now.
And body language goes a long way.
Sure.
And I go to India a lot now, up until the COVID, and they want to be photographed. They love being photographed. 99% of the people say yes. In New York, 50% of the people say yes.
Interesting.
So,
I'm actually looking at some of your India work here, and it's very distinct from your New York or your Italian work, for that matter, where these are clearly portraits more than real street photography.
And I want to get close, and that's why I use the wide-angle lens, because you have to be 5-6 feet or closer for it to really work, for me anyway. And so I get close, and I just don't want a face. I want an environment. I want a context. I want to tell a story about the people, and hopefully their environment helps to tell us, the viewer, something about them. So getting close doesn't mean I'm filling up the frame just with a face. A face usually isn't enough unless it's an amazing face. A baby's face, a really old face, a tattooed face, a remarkably wrinkled face, But most people aren't like that, and I'm into their faces, their posture. I'm shooting mostly from waist up and 5, 4, 3 feet away with the 21, and getting a lot of the background and in focus. Usually I want the background in focus to give a context for this portrait. If it's an individual, I'll do 2 people, I'll do 5 people, then I'll obviously have to stand back. I like to go one-on-one with people and not move them around particularly, but and I like them to be looking at the camera. I want eye-to-eye contact with the camera, and that means with me. I think it makes for a more powerful image and a flow between the photographer, the subject, and the viewer. So it's a tripod setup of 3 people or 3 groups involved with each other, whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
I'm watching your camera. We're speaking with you, and you have a Leica M4 with a 21 millimeter and a finder on it. And I've worked with 25 and 24 and 21. I happen to like myself, and I appreciate what you're saying about that. And you're right. Having your subject about 3 feet away, they're close enough, and if they get further away, you lose the whole picture.
If they get beyond
nebulous.
5 feet, then
it's lost. You need that dominant foreground. In the meantime, you're getting their environment.
Right, exactly.
And now you're talking about depth of field. It's pretty hard to get narrow depth of field with that particular lens.
Right.
You usually shoot what, at f8?
Well, if it's in sunlight, I'm shooting f8 at 1/250th with 100 ISO film. If it's overcast, I'll shoot f4 at a 60 60th. So it depends on the lighting street.
And everything is in focus at that point, pretty much.
Everything's pretty much in focus. I zone focus.
Right.
Sometimes I will actually focus the barrel, but usually it's not necessary unless I'm too close. Sometimes I'm too close and I get out of focus. So if I'm really close, I'll focus and it'll help. So I'll get the face in focus and maybe the background will go out of focus a little bit. So photographing in the sun, in sunlight, is much different than photographing on an overcast day, just from a focusing and depth of field point of view.
Another thing I noticed also, and again, from my own experience, I found this to be true. You have a finder on there. Now, the Leica itself has a focusing, it has its own finder, but this is wider, so you need something else. But what's nice about that is that you can look through that finder and still maintain visual contact with your subject. You're not hiding behind a camera or holding it at arm's length and staring at the screen. You know what? You're visually talking.
I'm looking through the finder. I mean, the camera's still in my face.
But they see your face, though.
They see more of my face, yeah. And the thing I don't do that I do with a digital camera is look at the back and see what my image is, because you can't do that. And I never did that. Now with my Canon, I find I'm looking at my shot, and that throws me off. And I don't know why I'm doing that. I try not to, but I think it's human nature. I mean, I won't do every shot, but I want to look and see what I got. And I tell my students, don't do that, don't do that. And I try not to, but it happens.
Now, you can mess with people.
Because it's there. You want to see it.
You can mess with people when not shooting a film camera and keep looking, keep chimping at the back of the camera just to mess with people's heads. That could be fun, you know.
I've never done that.
I just thought of that, and I'm going to try that.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Now, you also shoot digital. What separates you now? Again, you have a film camera with you now, and a majority of your work, I'm assuming, is in film because you've been shooting for
It is, because I love film. I mean, I love doing it. So if I go to India, if I go to Haiti, if I go to New Mexico, and it's so colorful, I'll probably use my digital camera more because of the colors.
Gotcha. Now, do you shoot raw
Yes.
Again, and again, if you like shooting black and white, do you keep your mode in monochrome or black and white so that when you're shooting digital, you're seeing and recording?
No, I'm shooting color.
So you're going just for the color itself?
I'm
just
shooting
pure color.
I'm trying to make the same kind of images, but in color.
Gotcha.
And I'm doing that where I think color is more amazing or valid.
Gotcha.
That I want to do the color. And I enjoy color. I'm shooting with my iPhone all the time. It's color.
Yes.
I like it. And I'm doing people. I'm going up to people with the iPhone close and interviewing them as I'm photographing. So, and I put that on Instagram. If you look at my Instagram, I'm telling stories about these strangers who reveal a lot about themselves to me. And I just spontaneously ask them questions about where we're at, about them. And I'm attracted to characters, quote unquote. I'm thinking maybe I should do a book on my iPhone stories, my iPhone camera stories and photographs. I'm learning a lot about these people. And with Instagram, you're limited to just so many letters that you can use, and then they cut you off. So I have to make it short and sweet. And I'm able to do that. And it's just another side of what I'm doing, and my interest in people. I don't care. This might be blasphemous, but I'm not too interested in product, or you could cut this out.
No, absolutely not.
Or having a lot of fancy equipment. I only have a couple cameras. This is my Leica is 40, 50 years old. My 5D is probably 15 years old, my digital camera.
You have the original 5D.
I have the digital 5D Mark II.
Oh, Mark II, okay.
Yeah,
right, okay.
Yeah. So, I have a darkroom. I'm in the darkroom. I don't need a lot of equipment, I don't think. I'm missing out on a lot. I have a telephoto lens. I haven't used it in 15 years.
Is it because you just don't see?
I don't see that way.
Exactly.
And I don't want to be that far away. And I know I can see, I wish I could get closer with a long lens, but so I miss it, but I'm getting other things that other people don't get.
How do you feel about using an iPhone? I mean, I think the iPhones are just extraordinary. The kind of imagery you can get from it. How does it affect the way you are taking pictures? Like you're saying you're using your iPhone a lot now to doing stories with people. I would imagine your whole approach is very different from using, say, a digital camera or a film camera.
No, it's the same.
Is it the same?
Yeah.
Not much of a difference?
I'm probably shooting them first with my Leica.
Okay.
And then if I think of it, like sometimes I don't think of it, I forget about it, it's in my pocket. I'll bring out the iPhone and say, I'd like to do a few with the iPhone also. The iPhone's remarkable in low light situations, where I can't get enough light onto the film, no matter what I do, unless I'm holding it at a second, it'll be all blurry. The iPhone can capture that. And I can work with the iPhone. I use Snapseed, and I can adjust things really quickly.
Yes.
And it's really quick. And I can give pictures or send pictures to people that I'm 2 years behind in developing my film, and then making prints in the darkroom. Oh my God!
Now, when
it's
you say
laborious. It takes a long time.
When you say you're 2 years behind, how many rolls of film are we talking about? You have any idea?
400 rolls.
400 rolls of film. Does that drive
Several
you nuts
years
to have that much imagery sitting there and not knowing?
Right.
And I imagine you remember a lot of the times pressing that shutter button, but you don't know what's going on.
I could put it away and forget about that and move on, and then go back to it. I mean, it doesn't bother me. And the same with shooting with the Canon, with the digital. I'm not looking at what I shot that day. It's for me. Unless it's really important. Unless, like, if I go to Coney Island and shooting film, I'm going to process that right away because I'm working on the book. So I have stuff from India, 3-4 years, Vietnam, 3 or 4 years. Right now I've been processing my New York work before the overseas work. I've caught up a lot because of COVID. I've been home more. So I go away for 3 weeks. I'm shooting 100 rolls of film. No one's processing that for me. I'm processing it for myself. And I do 4 rolls at a time. That takes months. And if I do that 3 or 4 times, 5 times a year, that film builds up. And I almost every other day develop film, or every third day at home. I have a room at home that I just process film. It's nothing elaborate. It's in a little room. And I have a darkroom in Midtown that I print at from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. And that's about once a week, every
And can I ask,
10 days. It's a laborious day.
is this your personal, or do you share it with people?
I
Is
share it with a
rental?
couple people.
Okay,
Yeah.
something you've
If
organized. like
anyone
that.
needs a darkroom to share,
Let
it's
you
a
know.
couple $100 a month. It's funky.
Yeah.
It's on West 50th Street on 9th Avenue, and it works, you know.
So, Harvey, I'd like to ask you, do you feel you have to process your own film?
I don't have to, but I do. I don't trust anyone else. And it's expensive. I roll my own black and white film. I imagine I saved $40,000 to $50,000 doing this for 50 years, rolling my own film. My first teacher, Ben Fernandez, said, roll your own film. It'll cost a third. So right now, maybe it costs a half. I don't know what a roll of film costs, maybe $10, $12.
It's gone up to about that. I haven't bought it for a while, but it's up there.
And to roll my film, I get 18 rolls on 100 feet.
Yeah.
It's probably $5 or $6. It's gone up too. Everything's gone up.
Yeah. Do you ever have a problem with the little caps coming off those? 'Cause I used to do
Once
that all
in
the
a
time.
while, yeah.
Oh, that's the
Yeah.
worst. No.
I tape the film. Once I shoot it, I'm taping it, especially if I'm traveling overseas, so the caps don't
Yeah.
come off. Yeah.
Now, again, this is a travel-related show, and we're talking about film.
Sure.
Traveling with film has gotten progressively more difficult. What kind of precautions do you take when you're traveling with film now?
Well, I always try to get the film hand-checked at the airport. And certain countries, England, France, no. Asian countries are pretty loose if you bug them enough, or if I'm doing a workshop and I have a tour guide, they'll come to the airport with the class to see us off, and I'll have him or her talk to the in their own language.
Right.
To pass my film through and hand check it. I don't use the
lead bags. They don't
lead
work.
bags. I've never used them. No. I don't know if they work.
Well, I'll tell you my experience of it. I was once traveling in South America somewhere, and it was the middle of the night, and I was traveling with a lot of film, it was Kodachrome, and I had lead bags, which are heavy, by the way. They're made of lead. And the guy behind the thing says, "You want to come count rolls of film with me?" And I look at him, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Come here, I want to show you something." He goes, "This lead bag you have? Useless." And we were counting the rolls of film through the X-ray machine. And this goes back a long time ago. They have much better machines. Now, one of the things I always recommend, I'm curious to know if you have any recommendations when traveling, take your film out of the boxes and containers and keep it all in a plastic bag so that they don't have, no questions, this is a roll of film.
Absolutely.
Anything you want to add to that?
Well, and I tape my film, and they say, "Why is it taped?" And I'm saying, because it would. So you just have to bug them. I've gotten on a plane where they haven't. They say, "Okay, like in England, you're going to miss your plane. We're not going to hand check it." So I give in.
Right.
Because I want to get home.
I'm a bit disappointed. I thought you were going to say, "No, I'll take the next flight." No.
And I've had film ruined once going through Mexico, and I didn't put it through, and I'm not sure what happened. Maybe it went through. But I guess they say it won't affect the film, but it will upon repeating.
Well, that's the whole thing. You go through a few times.
If you're traveling many countries.
It's cumulative.
That's the problem.
Yes.
One time, I don't think it's going to hurt.
No.
And I'm using slower film, 100 ISA.
Which also makes a
ISO.
difference. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, if it's a high speed, it's going to be more susceptible to it.
Yeah. And why do you choose the locations that you photograph in? Is that partly because of the workshops you're teaching, or do you just decide, okay, it's Vietnam this year?
I take, like I went to Mexico on my own, and then it dawned on me I can bring people there. I like Mexico, and I didn't even need any tour guides. I knew it well enough myself. In India, I met a man who was a tour guide, and I always wanted to go there, so that's why I went myself, and then I subsequently thought I could bring people there. I'm not going to go to a country that I don't know and bring people until I know it well enough. So,
what turns you on about a certain city or a country?
Maybe the mythology of it. Like Mexico, I like the way they treated death and dying. They're not afraid of it. The Mayans, they don't shovel their old age people into homes. The old age family members live with the family. They have obvious symbols of death and dying in the culture. Skeletons. They have a Day of the Dead holiday and festival, which I always go to. They wear skeletons on their shirts. They seem not to be as afraid of it as our culture. So I always liked that, and I always had a fear of death and dying from a kid. Like, oh, I'll never die. And then it dawned on me, someday I won't be here. How could that be?
That's impossible.
And so I wanted to learn more about it. India, I always thought was colorful, interesting people, and a huge variety of different sects, religions, languages, and states. They have a state called Kerala that is really southern, and I've been to it. And everyone is educated. It's 100% educated, and it's a communist state within this democracy. It's the largest democracy in the world, but one state is totally communistic. That's crazy. So that tickles my fancy, and I want to go and investigate it and shoot it and all.
Okay.
So
if I can maybe change the subject a little bit, you came of age photographically in really kind of a golden era, especially for street photography. Who were mentors for you, and who were people that you looked to for influence?
Well, my favorite all-time photographer is Gary Winogrand. I don't shoot like him, although I did a book like him called Briefly Seen, New York Street Life. I love that book. It didn't sell. It's my least good selling book, but it's beautiful. Maybe it's too much like Winogrand. I don't know, where I'm doing candidates in crowds, though. So Winogrand's my favorite. My mentor and how I got my start is through Ben Fernandez. Sure. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
He was a He's from East Harlem, and he was a big, burly, rough, tough guy. I took a class with him. I then started teaching for him at the New School.
Did he teach at NYU? Where did he teach?
He taught at the New School.
The New School, correct.
He developed the New School curriculum in the 80s, and then was the head, and he asked me to teach for him while I was teaching also at ICP. And Ben was amazing. He said, get a Leica, get a 21 millimeter lens, and go to Coney Island. And being the good little student I was and am, I did that, and I'm still doing it. Here's my Leica, here's my 21, and my third book on Coney Island is coming out in a month.
And that's on 50 years.
50 years.
That was the next question.
From 1970 to 1920.
Wow. Now, how many books have you done on Coney Island?
3. This will be my third book.
Your third book.
My previous book was Coney Island 40 years in 2011. I'm still going to Coney Island. I might do 60 years, so watch out.
I was just going to say, we expect to have you back in 10 years.
I'll be 100 years old, and I'm still trucking it.
Are you including photos from previous books in the new book?
I'm including about 20 photos from the previous book to this to form a link. I don't think my style has changed any between books, but there's new subject matter. And Coney Island has changed. It changes every day. It's gotten much better. It's gotten more family-oriented and safer. It's totally safe.
Yeah, it's not fun anymore.
It's less interesting in a way. And it's harder to photograph there because it's less interesting, and it's challenged me a lot more.
The juxtaposition of bizarre imagery is harder to find now.
Yes.
It used to be everywhere you looked. But I always find it's kind of interesting where the ocean washes its stuff up on the shore and the cities wash their stuff towards the beach, and it all meets in Coney Island.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so colorful.
But the beach is pretty clean these days. They're keeping it up.
And when is the book due?
It was due this May. I'm having a pre-publication book signing next Tuesday, June 21st, at Rizzoli, the most beautiful bookstore in New York. And now the new pub date is July 26th. It's delayed because of international shipping problems.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, and we come back. We're going to be back in the studio with Harvey Stein to discuss book publishing. Stay tuned.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the B&H Photography Podcast. The best way to support the show is by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. For links to gear and more information on today's guests, check out the show notes in your podcast app or visit our homepage on the B&H Explorer website and join the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back for part 2 of our show with Harvey Stein. We were joined by Jill Waterman. If you want to publish a book, it makes sense to talk to somebody who's already published one. Harvey Stein has just published his 10th book. This is the guy you want to talk to about book publishing. Trust us on this one. Harvey Stein, welcome back for round 2.
Good to be back.
It's nice to have you here. We enjoyed the first part. So anyway, your latest book, Coney Island People, 50 Years, is it here yet, or is it sitting on a ship? I know distribution of everything these days is upside down. What's going on with the book?
Well, that's a good question. The latest, it's not here yet, and its estimated time of arrival is August 1st.
And where was it printed?
It's printed in India by a company called Replica Printing. I don't know anything about it. I had nothing to do with that. That was the publisher, Schiffer, arranging it. It's printed. I have 5 copies. They air freighted 50, 60 copies at a huge expense. The original publication date was May 28th. Then it's pushed back to July 26th. And now Schiffer is saying, let's not go with those because it won't be here, obviously. The new pub date is August 31st.
Now, this also has a whole chain of events because you're supposed to be doing book signings and there's all kinds of other events. So how do you deal with all that?
I'm upset about it. I mean, what can you do? It's frustrating.
Yeah.
How do I deal with it? I have a publicist, Andrea Smith, and we put out press releases. We had a publication event that actually happened at Rizzoli on June 21st. The book should have been here, May 28th. So they shipped 50 books for that. We sold 30 books. It was a full house, and we had a great time. And I signed over 30 books. So, but the books aren't here for wider distribution. It's only at that bookstore. And we're just, holding our breath and crossing our fingers. What can we do? We hope it'll be in August. We've lost the whole summer. In the scheme of things and how crazy the world is, I guess it's not a big deal. But for me, this is a lifetime 50-year book,
Yeah.
So it's sad for me to see it not being out there. But the book looks great. I again have a couple copies. Some people have seen it and they really like it. So it'll get its due one way or another, I guess.
It has to soften the blow that at least you did have an opening at a respectable bookstore and there were copies there you actually signed. So it happened. It's real. It's tangible.
Right. And there are copies there now if anyone wants to run down there and get a.
Let's talk about workflow. When you're working on a book, do you handle all the picture editing and the sequencing, or do you collaborate, with photo editors or friends? Who else do you trust with these kind of things? What's your system of working?
I pride myself in being good at editing and sequencing, but I do use usually just one person. I never use the publisher. Don't use the publisher.
Why do you say that?
Because they know less about the subject than you do. Most of the publishers that I've worked with aren't photo book publishers per se. All these book publishers that I've used are big companies, and they have an editor that knows something about photography, maybe. I don't know that my editor knows much about photography now, the one I have at Schiffer. This is my fourth book with Schiffer, and they're really good, and that's why I go back to them. But I know much more about the subject and about photography. So they allow me, which is nice, to sequence and edit the photographs as I see fit. They don't want to do it, really, because that's another aspect that they aren't expert at and they don't have time for. I do collaborate usually with one person, and that person can change from book to book because books are, every 3, 4, 5 years, people go in and out of your life. I use Margarita again, the last few books, because she has a great eye and she's a wonderful photographer. I've never worked with a photo editor who calls themselves and works at the job of being a photo editor. Usually there are other photographers who I'm probably friendly with. I'm friendly with Margarita. She's my travel partner. I had other people in the past. I only met Margarita about 10 years ago. Up till then, I had 6 books published. So I also, for my book before this called Then and There, Mardi Gras 1979, I worked with the publisher, small book press, Zatara Press, and Andrew Fadenack was the owner and editor. And he and I worked on editing the photographs and sequencing the photographs together. He actually mostly did it, but he's a photographer. He has a degree in photography, an advanced degree from ICP, and I think Bard. So he was really knowledgeable, and I let him participate as much as I did. Normally, I do it all, and with one person. And my advice is just use one person. Don't ask 5 people. Don't ask 3 people, don't ask 10 people, and that person shouldn't be your husband, wife, or kids. They'll either love everything you do or hate everything you do.
Something I'm curious about on that very topic is you only work with one person, which I like, and also you're working with photographers. These are people who have the same visual sensibilities, whereas somebody else, they're just maybe they're not as involved in the whole thing mentally. How close? Now, you say you pride yourself on your editing. I do too. Maybe we're just all fooling ourselves. I don't know. But how close to your final edit do you find the other person's edit to be? Are there great differences, or is it more a minor tweaking of what you already put together?
I would say it's tweaking, but like with Margarita, we would go to ICP and lay out. I use prints. I print 8x10 prints. It's all black and white. It's all film, mostly everything that I've done. I have not done a book that uses digital capture. It's all film. So I lay out the prints, and I have on big tables, and then we look at it. And then, like in Margarita's case, she might say, I don't think that one's strong enough, or here's another one that I would move to here. So we would, and maybe I had 250 photos, and we would get it down to 200. So it's tweaking, but on a rather, 20% change, maybe. I'm doing all of it at first and then changing it. It's really up to me. I like doing books because it's up to the photographer, really. Don't ever want to give a pile of 300 prints, whether digital prints or black and white prints, and say, here, make a book. Give that to the publisher. Forget it. They'll ruin it. So I want to be strong about that it's almost very existential that it's up to us to give a product to the publisher. If I need help, I'm not going to the publisher for editing and sequencing. I'm probably going to a colleague, and another artist, and maybe a professor that you've had, a colleague in a class you've had in photography, another photographer certainly to help you. Yeah.
So do you deliver scans to the publisher, or do you just give them the prints and they make the scans?
Right. Up until 2011, I gave them prints. And before that, there weren't scans. I mean, 2006, I don't think they were scanning. They took the prints and made proofs of them, I guess. I'm not sure if that's the right word any longer.
Well, they do offset from it. They copy with an offset camera, reduce it to dots.
Exactly. And it was a whole rigor.
Unless you're doing a gravure, that would be a different process.
Yeah, it was a big deal. Now I have scans made. This is true for my Mexico book 2018 and the 2022 book that's just coming out. I get scans done. I don't do the scans. I have a lab do the scans. And then I have someone working the scans, and that would be, I hire people to do that, and I use labs to scan them. So I'm putting money into making the scans, and then the scans don't come out perfect, so you have to
retouch and optimize.
Like the scan's the negative, and then you have to you have to fix it, like being in a darkroom making a print.
Do you ever go on press when the book is actually being produced at all to sign off on proof sheets, or do you not get involved in that part of it?
No, I want to do that, and I've asked every publisher to go on press when the book is being printed, and no one has said yes until Carrere, the German publisher that I did my Mexico book with, and the book is called Mexico Between Life and Death, came out in 2018. And I think it's probably my best book, to be honest. I went to Heidelberg, Germany, and went on press. And the press was a Heidelberg press, almost half a football long, operated by one man, a digital press. And it was amazing. And he could change every print. And in 8 hours, we made 3,000 copies of the book. It was stunning. And I made changes. And as a result, it's the best printed book I've done. I want to go on press. Not that I know a lot, but my eye says, no, this is too light, this is too dark, this needs some contrast. I went with a production person from the publisher, Career, Kehrer. They're a great publisher, and they're located in Heidelberg. And I was on press, and it made a difference.
That's something I think that a lot of our listeners may not be aware of, is that if you are doing books, and again, if you're doing books with like Blurb or any of those other that do print on demand, you're not going to be there when they do it. But when you're going with a formal publisher, like Harvey does, and many photographers do, um, your work does not necessarily end when you hand over the finished print or your finished file, because when they're printing the book, the ink itself, the presses have to warm up, which means they print several hundred proof sheets before the inks get even. And then you have to look at it. Are the color balances right? Just like you're editing in Photoshop. Now you're editing on press.
Absolutely. But it's rare that you go on press because they don't want you on
They don't want you there.
You're a nuisance. You slow up the process.
You burn their time up. That's correct.
You could say, look, I'll pay for it. Like this last book was done in India. I'll go to India. I'll pay for it. Well, I wasn't going to go to India during COVID and do that. But I went to Heidelberg at my own dime, and it made a difference. And it was really educational also. I mean, you learn and you educate them too as to how you want the book printed.
Right.
It also teaches you how to prepare your work for the printers so that they have less work to do when they get what you're giving them.
Exactly.
Prepare the work for them. Give them what they need, not what looks gorgeous on a wall, but what they need.
So, Harvey, how much effort do you put into negotiating a book contract when you're ready to publish a book? Do you have a lawyer review it?
I get the contract. I've had a lawyer who was a photographer, Len Spire, who you probably know.
Yeah.
He was a lawyer and a good one, and he was a good photographer. And I had him review a couple of my earlier contracts. You get the contract, and hopefully it's in English and it's not in gibberish, legalese. And you go over it, and maybe if you have a lawyer friend, Len and I bartered a little bit. I don't have a lot of money to spend on stuff like that, but then I learned, and I can handle it myself. The negotiation is slight. They're not, you could ask for a little more money, a little more percentage of the sales. You want to make sure that there's a clause that says, but upon receipt of all materials, the publisher is obligated to publish the book within X number of months. They can't be, and I put 18 months. It should be 12 months. You could put 12 months, and I've gotten them to agree to that. So I get them to agree to specific issues that I'm concerned with. If you push too much, they're going to say, forget it. We don't need you so much. And they know we need them more than they need us.
Right.
Yeah.
What about the issue of model releases? Has that gotten to be more of an issue with publishers?
I don't get model releases on the street. It was an issue for my book on artists. I photographed 165 artists in their studios. So I did get model releases, including Warhol, and I had to show them model releases for all the artists. But outdoors, I don't get releases, and there's a clause that says they're not held liable if there's and I say, yeah, okay. But usually it's not an issue.
Have you ever been challenged legally by anybody who's seen their photograph in any of your books? Because even though there are very clear, quote unquote, clear laws saying that what you're doing is perfectly fine, there are people who have sued and walked away.
I've never had a image from a book sued, but I had a portrait of identical twins that I shot in their living room. I had it in Psychology Today, probably in the 80s. And I got a letter from their lawyer a year later, and they said, "You don't have a right." And I had a signed release from them, both of them, the two twins, and they dropped it immediately. So my rule of thumb is indoors, I'll get a release. Outdoors, probably not. If I know the person I'm doing a portrait outdoors, I'll get a release. But if they're just street photographs and strangers, it's impossible to get releases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
No
good
one's
rule of thumb, though.
pardon.
Indoors versus outdoors.
Indoors, yeah. So I say indoors versus outdoors. Yeah, yeah. And if you're in a touchy situation, like like a therapy session or something that's sensitive, a prison, let's say, but anywhere indoors, a home, I definitely get releases. I've rarely had to use them though.
So I know most of your books, you've not had to financially contribute to having the book published, whereas that's a big thing these days.
Big thing these days, and it really sucks. To excuse my French. It really is putting the burden even more on us, the artists, the photographers. We're spending tons of money doing the work and traveling and with supplies and our time, and now they're asking us for money. I really resist it. Schiffer is my current publisher. Again, my fourth book with them, and they do not ask for that. So that's one reason I go with them. Besides, they're very good, and I'm educating them pretty well, I think. And they do about 10 photo books a year. They put out 200 books a year. So they're not a photo book publisher, but they're big enough to have some clout. And they've done Arno Minkinen, I think, did a book. Allison Wright did several books with them. They're doing some good photographers, and I like working with them.
With
Um,
the books that when you do a book that you are funding,
right.
I'm assuming you're getting a bigger piece of the pie when it comes to divvying up whatever income you make from the whole thing. Is there a huge difference between the two? In other words, if
Yeah.
now you have somebody else funding the whole thing, so therefore, theoretically, you're getting less money at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, yeah. When you pay for it, what usually happens, I know this happens with Carrera, it happens with Daylight, who asks for a lot of money. I think it happens with several of the other publishers. They give you books. So they give you 250, 300, maybe 400 books in return that you can sell. And, the only publisher I've done this with, and I don't know why I did it, but is Carrera. Carrera asks for, it's in the $20,000 range.
Yeah, it's not
So
small
it's a lot
change,
of
sure.
money. So you don't. So they make books for themselves to sell worldwide, and I got 400 copies of the Mexico book. I've sold 200 in about 4 years. It's hard to sell books individually. I, again, I think it's my favorite book, but it's the one I wanted maybe mostly to get out. I had an offer from Damiani, and I went with Carrera because I had good vibes from them, and I knew some people that published with them. It is onerous. It is it is really bad, quote unquote, to have to pay for your book. Uh, but you do get books, but it's strenuous to sell them. Who are you going to sell them to? Now I teach. I had in-person classes, and I would sell 5 or 6 every class. It's harder now because now all my classes are remote, so it's a lot harder to sell books.
I know I was at a talk with Lee Friedlander, and he mentioned that, early on when he was doing him and his wife used to load up the station wagon with books and just drive around selling them at
Yeah,
bookstores and
that's
all over the
cool.
place. It's not easy. It sounds like it's all glamorous and everything, but
No.
there's a lot of work involved in this.
A lot of work in book publishing from beginning to end, and you're never finished. I love the process. I've built my career on my books. I have 3 more books ideas, not in the works yet. I'm going to be putting together. It's just in my genes now. I love books anyway. I grew up with books, so it's worth doing. I think it really. Why do we do books? It helps our name recognition. It helps our career. It gets us interviews. It gets us speaking engagements. And a book lasts. I like a book. I sell even my twins book from 1978, my first book.
I have the first edition.
Yeah, and it's still out there. I mean, used online, you can get it, and people know me from that. So it lives. An exhibition. It's a month. A magazine article is a month, and then it gets tossed. A book, people keep books. It's a great way to get your work out.
Do books translate into print sales?
Uh, Not for me much. Not for me. A couple here and there, but not really. No, you can't expect that. The translation is a job well done. You've started and completed a long-term project. All my books took at least 6 years to shoot, except my Mardi Gras book that came out in 2020. I shot it in a week, but it's Polaroids, and Polaroids sat in my drawer for 40 years until Andrew from Satara asked me if I had a body of work that would be surprising coming from me. He was aware of my work, street photography, my portrait work, and he asked me this question. I said, "Yeah, I have some stuff," and I showed him the Polaroids, and he said, "I'm going to do it." Well, he's a small publisher. We did 400 copies, and that's it, and we're sold. More or less, he has some left. I'm having a show at the Griffin Museum of this work, the Polaroid work, in September. The Griffin Museum in Winchester, Mass, outside of Boston.
Actually, you brought up the Mardi Gras book, and I actually wanted to ask you a question about that because I was looking at the photographs and something that struck me about it, and I was wondering if it kind of hit you too. I had an SX70 when they came out, and I loved it. And I went around Coney Island back in the 70s, 80s, whenever it was photographing with that whole thing. And again, they're unique. But now when you look at these SX70 pictures, not only do they have a color palette that's very unique to themselves and a focused look to them and everything else, okay, but they immediately, because of their format, what they are, lock you into a very specific time. In other words, if you look at some pictures, it could be, it might have been 10 years ago or 40 years. No, an SX70 is a very specific period of time. Did you have any of this in mind when you were taking these pictures?
No.
Or was this, no. Okay.
No, I didn't know how long I would do it. To me, I went to the Mardi Gras shooting with my M4s during the day, and it was great. And then there was evening, or it was twilight, and I brought my SX70 with flash bars, and it was a little dark then, so my film, I was shooting 100 ISO film, it wouldn't register very well. So I walked around town in the evening, twilight, shooting with the flash on with the SX70, and I got close to my subjects, and I was fascinated by the masks and the face drawings, and that's what this book is. 40 years later, it sat in my drawer for 40 years, and Andrew rescued them, and it's a beautiful book. It's a small gem of a book. And hopefully it'll be a collector's item someday. And so that was shot all in 1 week. My books have been shot over 50-year period, 43-year period, 40-year period. The Mexico is 18 years. My artist book, twins book, 6 years each. I specialize in working long term and trying to turn these long term projects into books.
Do you have any of these projects that just fizzled, that after a while you said, no, it's not clicking for me, you just let them go?
Yeah, I'm sure I have. I did a body of work on people living with AIDS with a 4x5 camera for the GMHC, Gay Men's Health Crisis in Manhattan. I photographed 125 people living with AIDS, portraits with a 4.5, and interviewing them. And I wanted to turn that into a book, and it never happened. It was just too much. It was too hot, they said. It was too hot a subject. And, that was fine. I have many projects that never see the light of day. Yeah. Yeah.
But by the way, just as a little, as an aside, we're talking about SX70s. When I was going around Coney Island with my SX70, you know what I was doing for the most part? I was at a flea market and I picked up one of those 1890s stereo viewers where you put in those stereo postcards and look at, okay?
Yeah.
I used the SX70. I would frame a picture, shift off a half inch to the left, take a picture, shift an inch the other way, take another one, and I would trim them down and I would put them into these viewers, and I was using SX70s to make 3D pictures from Coney Island. I still have some of these laying around.
Very cool.
Harvey, with that SX70 picture book of Mardi Gras, who is
Yeah.
the publisher of that?
Zatara in Richmond, Virginia, but they're online and they're a small publisher. They do 2 books a year, 3 books a year.
So what's the best way to research publishers?
Go to a bookstore that sells photo books and look at the books and who's publishing what. If for small books in New York, there's Printed Matter, a bookstore. There's the Whitney Museum bookstore has lots of books by small presses. You know, you could Google. I do a 2-part class for Los Angeles Center of Photography. 7 sessions class, 3 hours each, and it's a nuts and bolts class on how to get a photo book published. I just finished it in June, and I'm going to do a new one in October. So it's LACP, Los Angeles Center for Photography, and I like them a lot. They're really good. And I had students from all over. It's online, and I do it for ICP also. This October for ICP, I'm going to do a street photography class online.
What's the most important advice you give to students in that book publishing class?
Yeah, to shoot a lot and to work hard and be persistent. Don't give up, and find a theme. Find a theme that you relate to, that you love, that you can't help but shoot. And, just work it hard and don't get discouraged. It's a long-term process. It takes years. And once you turn everything over, it's 9 months or a year until they produce the book. So again, work on it and work on it and work on it and keep going back to it. And maybe do other things too. You can't just work on one thing. I work on 3 or 4 projects at a time. And, hopefully 1 or 2 come to fruition. So it's just be engaged. If you're not dreaming about your work or your project, then you're not involved enough, is what I would say. Yeah.
That's great advice.
That's probably the most valuable thing you could say. If it's about passion, and the more passion you feel about what you're doing,
Yes,
it's going to show.
Yes, and the publisher wants to see that passion. When you approach a publisher, you've got to be passionate about the work. If you're not, and they can tell, even if they don't meet you. It used to be you would meet face to face. I'm in New York City. All the publishers are here. And I met the career representative in New York at the Javits Center during a Photo Plus event. So go. There are online festivals. There's Photo Fest in Houston. There's Photo Lucida in Portland. And if you could have 20 minutes face to face with a publisher or publisher's representative, I would go to one of those festivals. Santa Fe has a very good photo festival where they're reviewing portfolios. If you have a book project, maybe try to sign up for one of these photo reviews and select publishers to show the work to, if there are publishers going to these things, which they do. So
great advice.
Good piece of advice.
Well,
very, very good piece of advice.
I mean, everyone works differently. Everyone has their own pace and rhythm and way of doing things. I think you've got to be organized and think that you're in this. It's not happening overnight, for sure. It happens after a lot of work and a lot of years put into it. And, you just got to keep doing it.
Harvey, again, it's been terrific talking to you. It really, really has. Not once, but twice. 2 different topics. This is kind of fun. Again, it's really kind of neat that you've been doing this for so long and you still have all this juice in you. And it's not like you're just sitting looking back and, crowing about what I've done. You're still out there working and you're still working on projects for the future. And that's just a lot of juice in that. And I know I feel it on this end over here.
I did a 3-day workshop in June to Coney Island. I shot about 25 rolls. I mean, I'm still shooting at Coney Island. I can't not go back there. It's so crazy and wonderful. It's such a great subject.
It is. Are the fries still good at Nathan's?
I heard, I don't eat fries. I heard they're not as good. I don't have their their hot dogs. I met a guy that had the Nathan's hamburger. I photographed him. He's in my book. I mean, crazy. You get a hot dog there. Who wants a hamburger?
You got Joey Chestnut pictures?
Yes. Not in this book, but in my Coney Island 40-year book. I have
that book. Yes, I've seen it.
You have the book, Alan?
Yes, 40 years. Yes, I do, sir.
Okay,
yes, I do.
You got to get the 50 too. It's the same but different. It really is. But I think it looks better than the 40-year book printing wise. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'll add it to my Harvey Stein collection.
Okay. Well, I hope to meet up with you one of these days.
Okay, Harvey, I know that you have other things to be doing today, and we got to start wrapping up here. Thank you for joining us again, not once, but twice. A pleasure talking to you. If our listeners want to catch up on more of your work, where's the best place they can go to see what you're doing?
I guess my website, but it's not really up to date. It's harveysteinphotography.com. And on Instagram, I'm at stein.harvey.
You're doing some interesting Instagram story stuff, right?
Yeah, that could be another book. I mean, I'm shooting that all with the iPhone. It's, I go up to people on the street and talk to them and photograph them and remember what they say to me. And then I write up a story. I post once a week, once every 10 days. I'm not crazy doing it, but I enjoy it. And I think everyone should have an active Instagram account. That would be another thing. Publishers want you to be on social media because that's a way to reach your followers and sell books to them. But
you could be the greatest photographer on the planet, but if nobody knows you exist, you're just dancing for yourself.
I think Instagram's good because it gets your work out a little bit. And that's why I do books. Books get our work out. And we control the book mostly. We control the message. I wouldn't work with a publisher that is pushing you around or bossing you or saying, do this, do that. They have to give you all the freedom that we deserve and that we need to do the book in our way, even though they're funding it. Although we're funding it now a lot more too, right? But because they're asking us to contribute a lot of money.
Bottom line is, if your name is on the book, you make sure that it represents you the best it can.
Absolutely. It's your butt on the line.
That's it.
Not them. So you want to make it as strong and as potent and the way you want it as much as possible. That's a good parting message. It's your name on the line. It represents you. So be aware, but be careful, but enjoy the process too. It's terrific. It really is.
Harvey Stein, thank you so much for joining us again. Not once, but twice for today's podcast.
Thank you, Jill and Alan and Jason. It was great to talk to you.
Okay, and we look forward to having you back on the show to see what else you're going to be doing, because we know you're going to be doing more stuff.
Okay, so. I'll call you in a week. How's that?
Sounds like a plan. Okay, that's a wrap of another episode, and we'd like to thank Harvey Stein for joining us again, not once, but twice in order to produce today's podcast. Another thank you to Logitech creators for the support of this episode, and we encourage you to check out the Logitech gear on the B&H website, especially the Blue Yeti USB microphones. Check them out. If you're a fan of the show, but you ain't yet a subscriber, as they say in the old neighborhood, head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and click subscribe. And you could always find us on the B&H Explorer blog and on the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group page. I'm Alan Weitz, and on behalf of Jill Waterman and Jason Tables, thank you oh so much for tuning in today.